In this podcast, I talked to Colin Luz, owner and founder of Coulee Region Moving Services. He also owns his own podcast called the Skills Gap Podcast, in which he talks about the trades, transportation, and utility industries and how there are so many jobs available that we don't even know about. Colin is really unique because he started his businesses when he was in college and really exemplifies patience and hard work and all these different things that I think young entrepreneurs need to be aware of. Go ahead and give this one a listen as we talk more about Colin's journey. Just came from a move,
That's right.
busy day.
Yeah, it was a good day.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about what he does and some of the things that he's started. But to kind of start off, the big thing that Nate's not able to be here because he's going to Vegas. Unfortunately, I mean not unfortunately, but he couldn't come, so he's pretty disappointed. But one of the things that we really wanted to talk about today were how you started Coulee Region Moving Services, kind of when you were in college and you just had this idea, kind of you wanted to make some money on the side. But what point did you realize, wow, this could be something that I do for the rest of my life, or just start as a business?
Sure. So I started Coulee Region Moving when I was a senior at Viterbo. I had been working at FedEx Ground for a long time, loading, unloading trucks, and part of my sales minor was that I had to do some kind of work, an internship in sales, but I waited last minute like everything else in school, and I didn't find an internship on time. So I had this idea to maybe start a moving company and just do it part time and give it a shot, and they advisors let me do it. And so really for the first like year and a half, it was real part-time just on the side. But that second summer going into it, it really started to pick up, and that's when I decided, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to make it work. But I mean, it was a tough thing to overcome at first. When you start a business, it's not just hard, time wise and financial wise, but I mean, getting those people to believe in you, like, I had a 4-year degree, and I told my parents, I'm like, I want to start a moving company. And they're like, come on, Colin, like there's got to be, you can find something better than this. And that they didn't really say it that way. I mean, my
Right.
parents have always supported me, but I could tell there was definitely some resistance because they just want me to be safe and happy and find a decent job. And so, but I really felt like it was pretty just simple supply and demand. I really felt like there wasn't enough moving companies in the area for how many people lived here. And I felt like the ones that were around here aren't bad moving companies, but I just felt like there was things that we could maximize on with the college students and my access to those people at that age, and do things a little differently. And so, yeah, we just started our 6th year in business in February, and we just moved to a new location this last year, so that's been really nice. But yeah, I mean, it's been a good run. I've had a lot of UWL students work for me, former student athletes, current student athletes, and they've been big for referring that next kind of generation of guys too. So I've never put out really a hiring ad. I think one time I did on Facebook, and I got a bunch of jokers, and it was super funny. I mean, it was a good time reading all of them. But I mean, other than that, it's just been word of mouth, and
Right.
a lot of our business comes from referrals as well. So
I really liked how you start that. Nate and I talk about all the time how, especially in entrepreneurship, but in business in general, all you hear is, I'm making this much money, I did this well, and I'm succeeding in this area, and all this success. But we don't really hear about kind of like the journey and the failure about it. People don't want to talk about it because it's not glamorous, it's not bright. And I think that it's so important that you started that way because a lot of people out there are like, well, it's easy for that guy to say because he's doing so well for himself. And that's why I can't start doing a business. That's why I can't start being an entrepreneur myself because of all of that. And he had that handed to him, and that's not the case here.
no, not at all. I mean, I there's nothing. I didn't get anything passed down from my family or friends or anything like that. This is something I completely started on my own. And yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship is a process. It's a long process, and you have to love the whole process of it. You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have bad weeks. You're gonna have bad months. But if you can just kind of have that vision, and there's that light at the end of the tunnel for whatever you're going after, you're gonna find it enjoyable. And
Right.
I mean, it's not like, I tell people this all the time. It's not like moving was my passion. I think one of the stigmas out there with people starting businesses is that they should start a business about something they're passionate about. But I don't necessarily think that's the best way to go about it because, for example, I love the game of basketball, but if I would try to pursue basketball as a 5'9" guy with a terrible jump shot, I probably wouldn't
Same.
make much
I
money
feel
for
that.
myself. Yeah, yeah, I'm right. And so for me, it was more about chasing an opportunity that no one else was.
Right.
I didn't love moving furniture, but I learned the trade. I got good at the trade. I hired guys who did it well with me, and through that I learned to love it, and some days are hard and some days are long. I'm rushing around like days like this and trying to get here on time and stuff like that, but I enjoy doing it. It's fun to have a life like that.
Yeah, it's a good busy. I mean, it's
Yeah.
people that don't like to be busy sometimes, but when you're busy doing something that you love to do, it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
And I mean, you talked about how it's not glamorous, and you'll find the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, that's not just in business either. Like, that's can apply to so many different aspects of your life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whether you're a college student or a high school student or whatever you're pursuing, it's all about the process and the journey of it. I mean, the results come with that eventually, and some are good and some are bad, but it's a roller coaster. So, and I'm just going to relate to entrepreneurship because that's what I know, but
Right.
it's not this straight line of success that I think a lot of people think it is, and it's for sure this up and down roller coaster of emotions and profit and loss, and so I mean, it's just it's a journey, but I mean, yeah, again, I enjoy doing it, and I think it's the right fit for my kind of personality. This isn't necessarily the lifestyle I would recommend for everyone. I think it does come down to just kind of knowing yourself, self-awareness, I guess, and knowing what you're good at, maybe what you can make some money at, and combining the two, and then go from there. So,
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the word. You said self-awareness, and that was kind of one of our past podcasts that we talked about is finding self-awareness within yourself and what that takes. Another thing that I see inside of you that I think is so vital when it comes to entrepreneurship or business or really anything in general is you have patience. You know that tomorrow isn't going to be when it's going to happen. You're not going to make $1 million tomorrow. You're not going to make the best move tomorrow. But over time, when you make growth and you have patience, those things start to happen and you start to get to where you want to be.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, any great success is based off the compound effect. It's based off doing the little things right for such a long time that eventually it pays off. It's there's no such thing as an overnight success. Even the ones you hear about, like overnight success on YouTube, they were doing that years and years before they got famous. Just no one knew about them until they had that one video or whatever that made them a hit. But they've been doing it for years and years, and but for anything, and that can go for whether you're trying to be a great football player or you're trying to make a lot of money. It all is just about this compound effect, about little things adding up over a long period of time, and consistency is the key to that. I mean, if you want to find success, and again, whatever you're doing, not just business, but it is about consistency and doing the little things right as much as possible.
So kind of transitioning into, well, you said compound effect, and it's funny because, again, last week we talked with financial advisor Travis Minigar, and we talked so much about compounding, not just in investing for, students and stuff like that, but in life, you compound things, good things start to happen, and they build off of each other. But transitioning into what I wanted to kind of go next is, lately I've seen you kind of starting to branch off in different areas. So you guys had the lighting company that you started, that you were co-founder. And then I saw Hoops for Hope. That's the second year, correct?
Yeah.
Second year?
Yeah, yep. So, so for the first 4 years of business, I just focused on the moving company. I really wanted to lay a solid foundation there. And from there, I would try and figure out what we wanted to do. So I kind of had two options. One was to try and expand the moving company to another city, another area, but we already cover a 150-mile radius from La Crosse, so to branch out of that, it just didn't really make sense for me at the time. I mean, wherever that was going to be is going to be far away, and to develop the systems and processes for a moving company isn't really the easiest thing to duplicate, at least for me at this time. So what I decided to do was get into other industries that I felt like were underserved, and holiday lighting was one of them. I looked around the area, and it's similar to the moving company. I felt like there wasn't enough holiday lighting businesses. I mean, there's none. So there's lawn care and landscaping companies that offer on the side, but I really felt like La Crosse was at the point population wise where a holiday lighting business could succeed, because there's ones in the cities in Madison that do really well, and I think La Crosse is just big enough that it needs something like that, and there's people that are willing to pay for it that don't want to get on the roof and take that risk.
It's only going to get bigger too.
Yeah, I mean, the first year we just did it real part-time. We were just trying to get our feet under us. I think we only did 4 houses, but last year we picked up another 19 houses, and it's just the word gets out, and it takes time. Anytime you start a business, you got to give it 2 years really to figure out if it's a real business or not. But I mean, yeah, we fully expect that to keep growing every year. Hopefully next year we could add another 25, 30 houses. And the nice thing about this is the system for putting up lights is it's much easier to duplicate than moving someone. And so this is something, we would love to expand later on. I think it's something that if, guys in other areas of the Midwest or wherever, they got concrete companies, they've got landscaping companies, these seasonal companies that in the wintertime they're done. They're not doing anything. And so to find guys like that, I think would be ideal, but we'll see what happens. And then, so along with that, I started Hoops for Hope, and we partnered with the Aquinas Boys Basketball Program and Coach Brad Reinhardt to do that. All the money that we raise goes to New Horizons Shelter and Outreach Center for victims of domestic violence. Yeah, because part of what my moving company does, like 3 years ago, we started offering free moves to victims of domestic violence. Yeah, and it's been a really good thing for the community. It's been a really good PR thing, marketing wise. I mean, people really can relate to that, and we've had people hire us solely because of that. And so I just wanted to build on that, and I felt like a 4-on-4 tournament when I was slow and I had some time to put it all together would be a fun thing to do. And yeah, it's been a hit. The last 2 years have been.
It's only going to keep growing. I mean, definitely, it's awesome that you do that. It really.
Yeah. So it's been good. But
so you kind of talked a little bit about the trades when you're talking about the lighting company. So transitioning into the Skills Gap podcast, you kind of started to get up and running.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of what that means, but also the big interview or the big podcast you got coming up with. What's it? Brian Scudamore, yep. 1-800-JUNKS. Go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's been an idea that I've had for the last couple of years was to start the Skills Gap podcast. I didn't have a name for it, but that's what I call it now. And right now there's a massive shortage for people in the trades, transportation, and utility industries. Every year there's more and more kids going to 4-year schools, and the price of tuition isn't getting any cheaper. In 1996, the average college graduate was leaving with $13,000 in debt. Last year, that number was $37,000. So college has gotten 2.5 times more expensive, even though it hasn't gotten 2.5 times better. And really, nothing in the history of Western civilization, it's college tuitions went up faster than real estate. It's went up faster than healthcare, faster than energy, faster than food, and it's gotten pretty outrageous. I mean, for how much it costs for a 4-year degree, and I'm not against 4-year degrees in any ways, and that's not what the podcast is about. But it is about making kids aware that there are other options out there to be successful. Whether it's apprenticeship work or you go to tech school or any kind of vocational training. There's some really good jobs out there that I think people need to be made aware of. And so, so I've gotten a handful of guests on there. And when I started the podcast, I kind of just came up with a dream 20 list of the 20 best people I would love to have on there. Figured it would take like 1 to 2 years to get some of these people on there because I really needed to build some momentum. But just over the years, really, I've been sending these guys messages about getting together at some point and talking just through Instagram and Facebook and email. And so finally, Brian Scudamore, the CEO of 1-800-JUNKS, got back to me and told me he would love to be a part of it. And I mean, I've only had the podcast for like 6 months, and so that's a huge pickup because having him on there is just going to expand us to
that's awesome.
All different sorts of people that follow Brian. And so along with him, I also picked up Aaron Steed just recently, who's the CEO and founder of Meathead Movers. They're California's largest independent moving company. They do 10,000 moves a year, $11 million in revenue. And so it's a big company. And so I like to have guys like that on there that can share their knowledge and their journey through the trades and transportation, how they've, those kind of industries. I think it's going to be super beneficial. I mean, I really think it's going to be the ultimate goal of that podcast, and the ultimate goal of this podcast that you guys are doing should be to get a sponsor. I mean, that's what I am. Everything I'm going for is to get someone big to sponsor my podcast, whether that's a tech college or it's a small business that needs to hire laborers of any kind, or whatever tradespeople they might need. But I really think that the podcast that I have will be a business in the next 1 to 2 years, and in itself, right now it's kind of just a side hobby and a hustle and trying to make work. But we've gotten some really good people coming on, and so I'm excited for that. I think that's probably the thing I'm most excited for right now. When I think about everything that I'm doing, it really fires me up thinking about that. So I've always liked entertaining people. It's always just kind of been who I am. So it's been fun.
It's fun to do. I mean, you just never know where something's going to go unless you start it. You talked about
exactly.
You talked about it. We talk about it all the time. College maybe isn't for everybody, and there's other things out there to do. But you don't know what's going to happen unless you just try. You talked about reaching out to people on Instagram, Facebook, about getting on the podcast. That opportunity for you coming up wouldn't have happened had you not just reached out consistently and made that happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not exactly, I guess I haven't followed you guys enough to know exactly what this podcast is doing. But I mean, just the fact that you're starting something and you're getting people in here and you're talking to people. I mean, this is a great way to meet people, right? Just it gives you an excuse to talk to someone by being on your podcast. So even though I'm not exactly sure what the direction you are looking to go with this podcast, just starting it and reaching out to people, you're going to see positive results from it in some way or another. So, but again, it compounds over time. You got to stay consistent. You got to do the little things right. And if you really want it to be successful, you got to work at it every day. But I think you guys have a unique perspective on things. And what's this called again? Right?
New perspective.
New perspective. Okay.
Right
yeah.
there.
So there you go.